Tom, you're dealing with a character who's been obviously played by Jason Robards. You know, let's just say it. There's a movie called All the President's Men that kind of hangs over this, like a friendly ghost.
He reached out to Robards' relatives.
As one does, right? But tell me about what you need to do to banish that or to embrace it.
I was lucky in that I'd met both the guys. I met Ben Bradlee through Nora Ephron and Sally Quinn. So I'd had cocktails with him and spoken to him, and his book is written in the same voice, and every interview he's ever did sounds exactly like the Ben Bradlee I met. I also worked with Jason, and I talked to him a little bit about that, and they melded at this point in the Poynter Institute interview that Ben Bradlee, when he was still Ben Bradlee, he was still running the Post at the time, I believe. And he said, well, you know, and then, you know, they asked him about the celebrity, and well, you know, it's inevitably, sooner you meet somebody for the first time and you're trying to do your job, and sooner or later they all say, well, you don't look anything like Jason Robards. So he was completely unaffected by that, and even though Jason is one of the great icons. Jason Robards is one of the reasons I'm an actor. I used to listen to his O'Neill monologues on the same CBS record at Chabot Junior College when I was 19 years old. If you went back and found it, my name is on every entry from taking it out. But there is that is a very specific type of moment in Ben's career, and I was actually fueled by everything that I'd read and seen about him. I just say, well, that's a wonderful interpretation of Ben Bradlee, but it's Jason Robards.
Right.
At the end, it's the countenance that blends over. So I actually felt as though I was lucky that there had been this established version of that, because I do not have the same countenance as Jason. I was going to find some other way into the character that had nothing to do with me doing an imitation of Jason or an imitation of Ben. It was a matter of finding some other way to walk into a room barrel-chested, filled with a confidence that I do not have.
There's a wonderful moment where, because to a person, most journalists, with All the President's Men, their very favorite moment is when Ben Bradlee comes out of his office and just thwacks that desk with the newspaper. And there's a moment like that in this movie. Was that your personal?
No, that wasn't about Jason. That's what I got from everybody else.
Right.
Yes, everybody had a Benism, you know, a
right.
Bradleyism, and they all croaked it at me. You know? Ben would, even women, Ben would come in and say, "Ah, my God, the fun!"
Yes,
you know, and that's
right.
that's the way
that's
the way he approached his job. I think that's one of the way he had so much confidence and owned a room when he walked into it, because you just wanted to have as much fun as that guy was having.
You have to also remember that Ben Bradlee was an ensign in World War II on the USS Philip,
right,
which was a Fletcher-class destroyer. And he saw a lot of action in the South Pacific, and he had a lot of young men under him. He himself only 22 years old. Yeah. He had a lot of young swabbies serving under him, and he had a lot of responsibility. And Ben was my neighbor. Ben and Sally Quinn lived directly across the street from our house in the summers on Long Island. And so I didn't spend a lot of time with Ben, but I spent some good quality time with Ben. But then when Ben saw Saving Private Ryan, he wanted to talk about what he did in World War II, and that's when he opened up to me about the war, and he talked to me about his leadership skills were honed during the Pacific Campaign, and that's what carried him right over to Newsweek magazine and then right onto the floor of the Washington Post.
The last thing I'm going to say, the other thing that Meryl and I have talked a lot about was, at that time, Ben was not necessarily competing with the New York Times. They were competing with the Washington Star.
That's right.
You know, which was number one. He did not. Neither one of them wanted to run the second place paper in what was sort of then considered a second tier town like Washington D.C. was. Right. So when the Pentagon Papers came, this was this fabulous deep throw out of into legitimacy that they had yet to have.